Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and I've got a quick news story to go over, and that is the question that Zero Hedge put forward, which is, did Russia shoot down US missiles in Syria? As the article talks about, in an exclusive video interview with Risk Hedge, a longtime geopolitical expert says there is an alternate story making the rounds about the United States' April 7th missile strike on Syria Shayrat airbase in response to the Syrian regime's alleged use of sarin gas on its own people. Dr. Theodore Karasik, a senior advisor to Gulf State Analytics, says, and I quote, "Not all missiles made their target. There were supposed to be 60. One malfunctioned on one of the ships. 36 made their target. The remainder did not, and there's a question of where did they go?" Dr. Karasik, a former senior political scientist in the International Policy and Security Group at RAND Corporation, spent the last decade in the Middle East and retains an extensive network in the region. Let me just break away for a second to say, yes, we can go a lot into all the problems with the RAND Corporation, but let's look at this article objectively because it seems to have a lot of very sound information in it. Moving forward, he went on to say the missing missiles were either brought down by the S-300 battery or were taken over by the Russian electronic jamming and were plunged into the sea. Now, this alternative theory means that the US and Russia have already clashed, if you will, technically, with the use of the TLAMs, Tomahawk missiles, and then being intercepted or taken over by Russian control. If true, this means the US and Russia have had a direct military confrontation for the first time in decades. Of course, we talked so many times during the election about how the Obama administration and of course people like Hillary Clinton were aggressing against Russia. Same with Canada, with Justin Trudeau pushing forward Operation Unifier, which puts troops around the Russian border. There's so much aggression against a huge superpower and it's incredibly irresponsible. And a lot of people said, well, Trump's working for Russia, everything is going to be okay because Trump and Russia, blah, 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 blah. Well, then Trump gets into power and he starts to aggress against Russia just like the deep state wanted all along. He's a puppet, unfortunately. And that goes for most presidents, or all of them for that matter. And interestingly enough, he took Hillary Clinton's position of potentially putting a no-fly zone in Syria and shooting down Russian planes in Syria, which of course would be the aftermath. But with that said, it hasn't been put forward yet, so let's just leave it at the face value of what has been put forward as an idea. But this is a very troubling time to be alive considering the amount of aggression between these major superpowers. Of course, it could just be Machiavellian fear-mongering, but all the same, it worries us individuals who are used as pawns in these government affairs, which are vastly irresponsible and vastly dangerous. The article goes on to say, this is very important because it illustrates that we've had our first encounter with the Russians, and that sets the stage for potentially future encounters between Washington and Russia on the Syrian battlefield. And then he goes into another interesting point, which is something that we've talked about many times. As the article says, in addition, the rationale for the missile strike in the first place, Bashar al-Assad's sarin gas attack on his own people, may be based on faulty intelligence. Dr. Karasik says, and I quote, "Apparently the location of the attack itself is an industrial area where there are a lot of toxic industrial chemicals located. The attack on this location produced a toxic cloud that was deadly enough, obviously, to kill and maim hundreds. The issue here is that in this particular attack, where this industrial gas was released, this is not in any way related to a sarin-type attack." Of course, we've also kind of gone into the fact that, do people expect us to believe that Trump, Tillerson, and Nikki Haley say that they are going to leave Assad alone after all these years of aggression and say, we do not want to overthrow him, we just want to take out ISIS, only for Assad to shoot himself in the foot or basically hang himself by a couple days later attacking his own people with no motive whatsoever, just killing vast amounts of children. Then we see these white helmets come in. They're not wearing proper gloves. They're not wearing proper masks. They're going in and touching these people covered in sarin gas, and they're apparently okay, which is absurd. Anyone who knows anything about sarin gas knows that you don't just like walk into it with bare skin and not, you know, a hospital mask and expect to get out of it alive or not incredibly injured for life. Yes, I do believe this was a false flag, and yes, this could just be the deep state pushing for a world war because, of course, the monetary system needs war, and of course, Syria has been rebellious against the West for many years now, mostly on a monetary side, but also for oil pipelines that Saudi Arabia wants to put in as well. I think this is good grounds for the world governmental organization, the UN, the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, these globalist powers to try to go in there and create a conflict for their own benefit. Of course, they don't care about lives. If the US gave a damn about chemical bombing children or killing children altogether, then the US wouldn't be the all-time champions at killing children, not just by killing them, but with chemical weapons as well. Depleted uranium, Agent Orange. We have memories, you know. We're not stupid. Of course, Dr. Ron Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, and Vladimir Putin himself have questioned the fact that this could very well be a false flag attack. Of course, Assad said very similar as well. And I think it's time that we start judging this objectively and looking at this and actually trying to get to the bottom of this, because this is a long time coming. If you look at all these other countries that this kind of stuff has happened to in the past, not just Iraq, but even going back to 1952-53 with the Iranian missile coup, where they overthrew a democratically elected leader and installed the Shah. The US has been meddling in the Middle East for a very long time. They've been meddling with the elections. That's something the media won't talk too much about, will they? And on top of that, the US has armed and funded terrorist groups for years to destabilize the Middle East, including Al-Qaeda through Zbigniew Brzezinski under Jimmy Carter, going into Reagan years, the Taliban under Reagan, Iraq under Reagan, as well as in 1968 with the Iraqi Ba'athist Party. Saddam Hussein as a CIA operative going into Iran, arming and funding the Muslim Brotherhood, militias all throughout the Middle East, and yes, ISIS. This just repeats over and over again. Problem, reaction, solution, repeat. Look at Libya, look at Afghanistan, look at Pakistan, look at Iraq, look at Syria, look at Yemen, look at Bahrain. Look at so many of these other countries that the US has taken a hold of and destroyed. It's something similar as well to in South America back in the 1970s with Chile and Argentina. They destabilize for their own benefit. They don't care about human lives. They are simply trying to create a global control complex. Take the gold, install central banking powers, and it goes on and on and on. We have to do this research instead of blindly regurgitating everything we hear on the mainstream news. I'm not just anti-war, I'm anti-government, I'm anti-control complex, I'm anti-coercion and force being used against free individuals under the guise of freedom. It's a disgrace, and we have to stand up to it. So, thanks for watching, everyone. You can check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated. And, of course, check our address in the description in the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan for Bitcoin. Of course, in these times, we are getting vastly demonetized and censored here on YouTube, and we need individuals like yourself to help out in any way that you can, if possible. We thank you very much for that. You can also check the link below for the Red Pill Expo, which will take place in Bozeman, Montana, in June 2017, where you could see people like J. Edward Griffin, Ty Bollinger, Lord Moncton, Robert Kiyosaki, Cynthia McKinney, Mike Adams, James Corbett, and many other great names. And hopefully we will be able to make a massive impact. So we hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.